Well, hello you lot, welcome back to the channel. And yes, today I'm going to be investigating this little knocking noise I keep getting on this corner. Now, I thought to myself perhaps it was the fact I've got some uprated coils on there, but thinking about it, it's actually been there for a while, so it's just gotten worse. So what I'm going to do is put the car up onto some ramps and just have a look underneath before I start to strip the interior race car to see where it's coming from. There we go, I've got some mats out. The car's up on the ramps just. It did push this one a little bit, but let's get underneath the dirt. And it's nice to have a bit of sunshine. Yeah, all I'm basically going to do is have a look underneath. Look at all this, it needs sorting. And just check all of these just to make sure that there's nothing rattling, because something is knocking. Yeah, hopefully it's not the BC Racing coilover, but as I say, it kind of sounds like something inside is rattling, like the rear seat belt or something, but I'm going to have to get underneath and clean all this and treat it. It's bugging me already. Anyway, let's look further under the car. Exhaust mount looks okay. I mean, all of these always rattle, don't they? And I've got a suspicion that, let's have a look at this one. Yeah, that one's broke there, but doesn't really go anywhere. That one's been remounted, but as I say, the noise is definitely coming from under here. Well, I say under here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get my scrub and brush out, I think, and give it a good old clean. These bits look alright. Yeah, I may go and get my little crowbar and have a look and see. And then bring you back. That's right. Let's check the exhaust, which again seems okay. That seems okay. Yeah, it's just not that kind of noise. Not that kind of noise at all. It's just like something's rattling inside. I actually initially thought it was the rear hatch not seating properly. That's the kind of impression it gives, but I've checked the rear spoiler, I've checked the rear hatch, so I'm not too sure. Anyway, what I'm going to do is go through some of these with a bar, but as I say, I've lent on them myself and I just can't see it. Yeah, so let's do that. Well, that proved pretty inconclusive, so I'm now going to have a look on the inside, which I've already done once, but I just don't get it. It's very annoying when you've got like a squeak and a rattle in your car, and previously you would have remembered that I took the rear corner out, had a look at it. I thought maybe it was the wing, but that's bolted on, and then I thought perhaps it was the rear part of the hatch, but if you shut the actual hatch and try and lift it, it's not loose on the actual latch at all. So I've sat in the back of the car, bounced up and down, drove around with the rear seats unclipped, took the parcel shelf out, rear carpet. Like I say, I thought perhaps it was a top mount on the BC Racing coilover, but I've tried that. Both the bolts are really tight. There's no movement in it, so unless it's the actual inside of the shock. But as I say, it sounded previously when I had the car on the original suspension, bit of condensation there, it would knock once every now and then over rapid bumps, but it now does it all of the time, and I'm suspecting it's just because it's firmer. So let's, as the sun's beating down, let's try and take some of the rear out and try and have a further dig into this corner. Well, welcome back. I've just been for a test drive. As you can see, I've taken most of the interior trim out. The only thing I could find is when the seat belt comes out, there's a bit of noise there, but I mean, everything is mounted so well, so I really don't get it. Like I say, unless it is the shock, but it just doesn't sound like the shock. I really don't get it. Cup of tea and biscuits. Good food for the brain, apparently. Yeah. Well, I've decided it can't be the seatbelt mechanism, because if I wiggle the internal bit there, there's no horizontal movement whatsoever. So the only sound you get from it is when it actually brakes, in the sense of not letting the seatbelt out. I've driven around with the seats down and it still makes the noise. As you remember in a previous video, I checked both of these to make sure these were tight, which way they were. I also held on to the shock inside here and tried to see if I could move it to see if that had not been tightened properly, but all appeared to be correct. So unless I'm missing something behind that panel, I don't know what it could be, but I will carry on. Back again. The next thing I've tried is tightening the rear spoiler bolts, or the rear wing I should say. They were all loose, but you can't over tighten them, so I've pinched them. But again, the sound sounds like it's coming from there, but I won't know till I test drive it. The only thing I will say is that seems to rattle, so I don't know. But I mean, when you shut the hatch, it's obviously a bit harder to don't know. Don't get it at all. So I think I'm just going to put it back. Yeah, just put it back together. Give the car a clean maybe, but it's a bit warm at the minute. Put it back together and just, yeah, put up with it. There we go, folks. Everything's back together. All the trim's in. I'm still debating whether to race car spec this. I've oiled up the shocks, tightened up the gas struts, I should say. I've tightened up the rear spoiler, cut the lawn as well. I've checked all of these, tightened everything down, checked underneath, make sure the handbrake cable isn't tapping against the rear subframe. I've checked all of the control arm, mounts, rear arms, you name it. One of the heat shields is rattling a little bit, but it's definitely not that. I've also tightened up this from the underside, tightened up the trim. Yeah, I've actually attached the rear seat belts, hoping that, you know, I don't know, I'm sure it's not, I'm sure it's going to actually turn out to be this rear corner, the shock itself, or the top mount. Not sure how, as I say, because it's only done a couple hundred miles. What else have I done? Not a lot, give it a quick dust, and that's about it really. Yeah, car needs some fuel. What Focus doesn't need a fuel? I want to update the radio at some point. Speaking of which, some of you that follow me on Instagram, 48 miles to go. Gotta love it, haven't you? What do I get on this then? So it's still, my average has dropped 22 miles to the gallon, which isn't bad. A lot of it's commuting. Yeah, 97,000 miles. Gonna have to do an oil change soon, aren't I? Yeah, as I was saying, talking of radio, I've actually got a second job. On Friday, I'm actually presenting my own show on a local radio station called Purbeck. Let's get it right, Paul, as it's a job. It's actually called Purbeck Coast FM. They live stream, but they also broadcast on 101.2. You'll probably only get it if you live in the Purbeck. Not Purbecks. Purbeck. Yeah, it's a 2-hour radio show. All the best 80s and 90s music, trivia, stuff like that. I'm doing this in existence of my other job, but yeah, I do want to change this radio actually, talking of radios. That was the point I was going to make. So I'm going to take the car for a trip around the block. When I can do that, probably tomorrow actually, thinking about the plans. Then I will update you on the squeak. I've not got any bits on order. Like I say, I've been ill for about 3 weeks, which hasn't been very good. Still recovering. Attack of the bee. It's gone. Yeah. So all I'm going to do is round off this video. Very unproductive, but I thought I'd put some content out because it's Good Friday. I'm not sure when you'll be watching this. It's just dust from driving around with the windows down and my arm hanging out. Yeah. So this video will probably be uploaded after Easter, but hopefully you've had a good Easter, and I will catch you later in the month.